Hi, it's Chef Diane, and thanks so much for cooking along with me today. Today we are making a recipe that the whole family can get involved with. It's one of my favorites, my family's favorites. It's black bean and Manchego cheese empanadas with a chimichurri dipping sauce. That dipping sauce can be served as with your empanadas, or it can be served with chicken or fish. It's definitely one of those back pocket keeper recipes, and you're gonna love how easy and delicious it is. So let's talk about what we need to do to get started. So first of all, of course, we're gonna hand wash. I've already washed my hands, soap and water. I've counted 20 seconds while I washed them, and now I'm ready to go. We're also gonna need to wash your vegetables, and I'll walk through how you're gonna do that as soon as we get started. The next thing you're gonna need are your ingredients. So let's talk about what we'll need. Black beans. These have been taken out of a can. They've been rinsed and drained. So if you haven't done that yet, open your can, grab a strainer. You're gonna run the beans under water, running water, until all of the foamy, starchy stuff comes off, and then let them drain. You wanna make sure that you don't skip that draining step, because then your filling will be too watery. Now this is just 1 cup, so it's not a whole can of beans. Save the other half of the beans for another purpose. So 1 cup of beans. Then we have 1 green onion, and we're gonna cut this up into little slices. I'll show you how to do that. But first, let's wash it. You're gonna wash it off and then wrap it up in a paper towel to get off all the extra moisture. You will need a garlic clove. This is in the skin, but you might already have garlic that's peeled. That's fine too, but I'll show you how to pop it out of the skin. Some cumin, smoked paprika. Both of these are gonna give the black bean empanadas a really nice smoky flavor. We've got puff pastry. So this is a dough you can buy in your freezer section. It comes with 2 layers, 2 sheets of puff pastry. You wanna make sure that you keep it cold until you're ready to work with it. This has been defrosted from the fridge about 40 minutes, and we're gonna cut it up into 12 empanadas, but if you have extra empanada fillings, you can use that second sheet of puff pastry that comes in the package. A block of Manchego cheese, and if you can't find Manchego cheese, which is a Spanish cheese, you can use a hard mozzarella instead. And we're gonna grate this as well. And then for the chimichurri sauce, we've got a combination of a cup of parsley and half a cup of cilantro. Now you don't have to pick the leaves off the stems. These tender stems can go in. They're really flavorful. They'll make your chimichurri taste really bright and brilliant. Then olive oil and a white vinegar are gonna go in there. Of course, we always wanna have salt and pepper for both of our dishes. We've got, I'm gonna use Himalayan pink sea salt today, some black pepper, and then red chili flakes. Now, if you don't like the spice of red chili flakes, you can leave it out, or you can adjust it by how many pinches you put into the sauce. So super easy, just a few ingredients, and then we'll need some equipment to get started. So a big bowl for your beans, and then something to stir it with. So all the bean mixture is gonna go into this bowl. You'll need a cutting board and a knife. You'll use that knife to cut your green onion. It's a knife that fits your hand, no matter what age or stage of cooking you're in. You'll need a sheet pan with some parchment on it, a bowl and a pastry brush for your egg wash, which is gonna go on top of the empanadas. If you don't have a pastry brush, you can use a spoon. That's okay. Speaking of spoons, we're gonna need some tasting spoons, so we make sure that our mixture and our chimichurri sauce are absolutely seasoned perfectly and deliciously. We'll need a fork for sealing our empanadas. Some measuring spoons for our spices, a grater to make our cheese and to grate our garlic into our empanada mixture. And then we'll need either a mini prep, a food processor, a blender, a bullet, whatever kind of high-speed blender that you have, you can use to make the chimichurri sauce. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and we can get started. Okay, so here we go. I've got myself set up to get the filling done for my empanadas. I popped my empanada dough back into the fridge so it wouldn't get too soft, and I'm gonna preheat my oven at 375 so we can pop those empanadas right into the oven. So let me go ahead and get that oven started, and you can go ahead and get your oven started too. So at 375, it's going to heat so it's ready to go. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our green onion done. So it's already been washed. Super easy slice. What you want to do is take off the little end here and then just slice it into a thin little slice. It's going to look just like this. So nice and thin, as small as you can get it. And we're going to go all the way up until we get to the part that looks a little bit ragged at the top of the onion. Greens and whites. I'm cutting with that motion that I'm pushing forward and then pulling the blade back. Moving my hand away from the blade as it comes closer and closer. And after we have that all chopped up, it's going to be ready to go into our black bean mixture. Super easy. There we go. Green onion. And next comes our spices. So we've got a teaspoon of smoked paprika. If you haven't worked with smoked paprika before, smell it. It smells delicious. It's a really nice seasoning to use if you don't eat pork items, because it kind of gives like a bacony kind of porky flavor to things. And then we need a half a teaspoon of cumin. So 1 teaspoon smoked paprika, half a teaspoon of cumin. Next, we're going to get our garlic in there. So we're going to take this garlic out of the skin, cut off a little bit of the end. And this one fell right out of the skin. Let me show you the one that isn't going to slip out so easily. So cut off the end. Give it just a slight little smash with the side of your knife. Fingertips curled up. So you hear the skin crack, and then you can peel that skin right off. Sometimes the skin on garlic is really tight and it's hard to get off. And we're going to use a microplane, or you could use a box grater on the small side and just grate that into our filling. So watch for your fingers to not hit those sharp little teeth on your microplane. Then everything's going to gather in the bottom. We just go tap, tap, tap. It's just a little hint of garlic. Nothing to blow you out of the water. There we go. Tap, tap, tap. And next we've got our cup, half cup. There we go. Sometimes I like to refer to my recipe. You can refer to your recipe that's at the bottom of the screen on your YouTube video, if that's where you're watching it. So I'm going to use my grater again, half a cup of Manchego cheese. I'm just going to eyeball this. I'll show you how half a cup looks in your hand. This is about a half a cup. Now you could add ground meat to this recipe as well. So here's half a cup. It just fits into the palm of your hand. That goes right in. If you like to have ground turkey, ground beef, ground chorizo would be nice. You can add that to this recipe as well. You would just want to saute it in a pan and then let it cool before it went into the mixture. First of all, it's going to melt the cheese if it goes into the mixture. And secondly, when you roll your empanadas, it will make the puff pastry fall apart. So there is our mixture. Of course, everything needs salt and pepper. So I'm going to do a few grounds. Himalayan pink sea salt. That was about 8. About 4 black pepper. And I'm going to give it a mix. And you're going to see the smoked paprika turns everything a lovely shade of red. You want the cheese to be all incorporated so it's not in any little clumps there. And you're going to look just like this. Next thing we need to do is give it a taste and make sure it has enough salt and enough pepper. You can always adjust it if you need a little bit more flavor. And I think mine is perfect, so you let me know how yours is. All right, so then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get a puff pastry and roll out these empanadas. So let me show you what that looks like. I'm gonna get that puff pastry out of the fridge. Just gonna clean as I go a little bit. And I'm glad I put it back into the fridge because it was starting to get a little bit too soft. The reason why you want it cold is that this has butter in it, and the layers of butter cold help the pastry puff up. Now traditionally, empanadas are made with an empanada dough. This just makes it super easy and super accessible. We're gonna cut the empanada dough along the lines where it came out of the package. And then we're going to cut it into squares. The size of this dough looks like we're going to do squares are going to be 1/3 each. So each strip is going to be cut into 1/3. So we'll get 9 empanadas out of this sheet. Your sheet might be a different size, look differently. It's just a really easy product. And so there's your square. There we go. Next we get to fill them up. So let's see how that looks. You put these on a clean countertop. Grab a tasting spoon and use it to fill your puff pastry. I like to just kind of squeeze it to make it a uniform size. And the thing that's most important, you're gonna put just about a teaspoon in there and no more. I have seen people overstuff their empanadas and then they explode and there's nothing inside because it all exploded all over the sheet pan. So this is a heaping teaspoon with a border all the way around. Then you're gonna take your the bottom of the square and have it meet the next side of the square and gently pinch the sides together. I sometimes have to stuff the beans back into the empanada so they don't fall out. And for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put these on my sheet pan. So you can go ahead, get your squares filled up, teaspoon of filling. Try to make these uniform in thickness, not overstuff them, and then fold it over. So you make a small triangle, pinch the sides together, and put it on your baking sheet. I'll show you one more and then you can do the rest of them on your own. Always put me on pause if you're running a little behind. Here we go. Fold it over. This bottom point goes to the top point. Push in the beans if they're starting to fall out. If you do decide to put meat in your empanada, obviously you're going to have a little extra filling. If you do have extra filling, you can always put them in scrambled eggs or on top of nachos and just pop those tortillas with the topping in the oven and you'll have a nice snack. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make my empanadas while you make your empanadas. Put me on pause and then come on back. Okay, here we go. I have made 9 empanadas, filled them up, and just gently pinch the edges together to seal them. But we're going to use a fork to seal them the rest of the way. And this is a fun little thing for little hands to do as well. So grab a fork, and then we're just going to fork tine the edges of these empanadas. And that's just going to give them a little extra seal, so when they bake, the insides won't be showing. So you just go along the edges of the empanada lightly with the fork, makes it sealed nice and tight. So with this recipe, little hands can grate the cheese, season the beans, they can help chop the onion. Adults will need to turn on the oven, take them out of the oven, but most everything else, you can get your kids to get this going. Just a little fork tine to seal the edges, and it makes it look really pretty too. Okay, I'm on my last one, but if you need some more time, just put me on pause. And we're gonna have one last step. It's kind of a baking hack. It's been around for a long time, but you want to put a little bit of an egg wash on top to make these look golden brown and beautiful. So we're gonna crack an egg into the bowl. Now I always crack my eggs on the counter so I don't drive any shell up into the egg. So I just go tap, tap, tap on the counter. And then where that little crack is, I put my thumbs, turn it over, gently squeeze and open it up. Of course, because I touched something potentially hazardous, I need to wash my hands. So let me give a second for a hand wash. And the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to mix that egg up. We can use the same fork that we used to seal our empanadas. Give it a good scramble. You just want to make sure you don't see any whites. It's all mixed up with the yolk, or else you get some funky white streaks on top of your empanadas. Some people put water in their egg wash, they put cream in their egg wash, but I just use just the egg. I think it gives it a nice color. And then you're going to take a brush or a small spoon and brush it over the empanada. Don't press too hard. Don't flood it on top of the empanada. Don't get it on the baking sheet or you're going to have some baked egg on your sheet. Just a little light wash for color. And then these are going to be ready to go into my heated oven. Your oven should be nice and hot by now too. They're going to go for 15 minutes. And the magical thing about puff pastry is it will let you know when it's ready. It's going to be puffed and golden brown. So that's all you have to do to ensure that you have the perfect baked empanada. Some empanadas are fried. These are just a little bit lighter. And empanadas can be filled with so many different things. So it's a recipe that can be different depending on where you're eating, what culture you're in. So this is what my empanadas look like. I hope yours look equally delicious and ready to go in the oven. Okay, here we go with our chimichurri sauce. You're gonna love this. It's so easy to make and it is delicious, not just on empanadas, but I use it on fish, chicken, steak. We even dip toasted bread into it. So let's go ahead and get started. Remember, you're going to need a cup of parsley and a half a cup of cilantro. You could use mint too. If you have a lot of mint in your garden and you want to use that up, it's a nice one to put into this sauce as well. Garlic clove, and we're just going to pop that right into the food processor or bullet or Vitamix or a full food processor. Whatever it is that you have, that goes right in there. Then we're going to do a half cup of olive oil. So put your cup down on the counter, eyeball where that half cup measure is, and that's going to go in there. So as soon as it reaches that little red line, you always want to use a liquid measuring cup when you're doing liquids like olive oil and vinegar, water, whatever that you're using, whatever you're measuring that's liquid should go into a liquid measuring cup. And then I've got a 1/4 cup of vinegar. I like to use this white balsamic vinegar. It makes it really delicious. And that's going to go right into your food processor, along with a pinch of chili flakes. Now, the recipe says a teaspoon. That's, for me personally, that's a lot of heat. So I just put a little bit in my hand. So that's enough chili flakes for me just to give it flavor. And we're going to give it more salt and pepper. So let's just do a little bit of salt. We'll start off with about 4 cranks or a couple of pinches, and 3 cranks of black pepper. The olive oil and vinegar goes in. Try and get all of that out of the measuring cup. And then place the lid on whatever device you're using and just let it go. Makes it so easy. Now you don't want it too blended. You want to have it a little bit chunky so you get those big flavorful pieces of herb. I need to go a little bit further though. Grab a spatula. Make sure you get all of the chimichurri out of the blender. And then we have to taste and make sure that we have enough olive oil, salt, pepper, vinegar flavor. Actually, let me go ahead and do this first. I think it's fantastic. I'm just going to give it a splash of olive oil because it tastes a little bit tart from the vinegar. Another grind of pepper, since I didn't use the red chili flakes, the entire measurement. Some black pepper. And then I'm going to go with just a tad bit more salt. This is how we do sauces. We always want to make sure we taste sauces. And how much healthier is this homemade sauce? This will last in the refrigerator for about a week. Now I'm going to go check on my empanadas. Let's see how they're doing in the oven. Let's see if they're browning. Also, let's rotate the pan. So we're just going to turn it around. So mine are puffing up quite a bit. I have about 5 minutes left to go. I'm just going to spin that pan around and put it back in. Always have the adult in the home take care of that oven business. I'm going to check back in with you as soon as they come out. I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to eat them. Here we are. We have our golden, fluffy, delicious black bean and Manchego cheese empanadas with our chimichurri sauce. And I got a pretty platter to put it on. So here's my platter, chimichurri here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these empanadas. I'm just going to cut them in half, make them look pretty. You can see the inside with the beans and the green onions. It's just a beautiful little bite there. And pile them up on my platter. You could also serve them whole if you like. One thing I wanted to say, if you didn't want to eat all of these empanadas right now, you could save them for later by freezing them. So before they go into the oven, you could put them in a freezer safe bag. But these are a tasty little treat that your whole family will love. And there you are. Our black bean and Manchego cheese empanadas with a delicious chimichurri sauce.